All right, today we're heading to the most remote place on Earth, Antarctica. And no, this isn't going to be about penguins and icebergs. We're talking about a continent of secrets, a whole world hidden away under all that ice.
So what if one of the greatest mysteries on Earth isn't out there in space or down in the deepest parts of the ocean? What if it's right here, on our own planet, just buried, sealed off from all of us? That's the huge question we're tackling today.
And to really get a sense of what we're dealing with, look at this. We're talking about more than 2 miles of solid ice in some places. I mean, just try to wrap your head around that. That is a truly massive barrier hiding almost an entire continent from sight.
And look, this isn't just some sci-fi fantasy. We know there's a hidden world down there. Scientists have used radar to map it out, and what they found is incredible. We're talking about vast mountain ranges no one's ever seen, let alone climbed, deep ancient valleys, even hundreds of lakes totally hidden from view that haven't seen the sun in, well, forever. So if all that is down there, it really makes you wonder, right? What else could be hiding?
All right, first step, clues from a lost past. We're going to unearth the evidence. Let's dive right into the clues that have kicked off one of the biggest theories about Antarctica, the idea that there's a lost civilization buried there.
So our first piece of evidence isn't from some high-tech satellite. It's actually from old maps. I'm talking centuries old. Maps like the famous Peary Ray's map seem to show Antarctica's coastline, but without the ice. They show it with incredible detail, pointing out rivers and shores in places where today there's nothing but miles of ice.
So the big question is, how could they possibly have known what was under all that ice? Well, the theory goes they didn't. The belief is that these old maps were actually copied from even older sources. We're talking sources from a time way back, a time when Antarctica might not have been frozen at all.
But it's not just about old maps. In fact, our modern technology, which you'd think would clear all this up, has actually just made the whole thing even weirder.
Okay, so when we use ground-penetrating radar to look through the ice, we find some really strange stuff, things that are hard to explain. We're seeing these radar anomalies, shapes that are just too symmetrical, with flat planes and sharp 90-degree edges. To a lot of people, these formations don't look natural at all. They look like they could be walls, or maybe even the foundations of buildings.
And then you've got the stories. Oh, the stories. For decades, speculation has been fueled by things like Operation High Jump. This was a huge U.S. Navy mission to Antarctica back in the 1940s. The official story? Just a training exercise. But it was so massive, and it ended so suddenly that for years people have wondered if they were really down there looking for something else.
Okay, so ancient maps, weird radar blips, secret missions, it's a lot, right? But what does the actual science say about all this? Let's switch gears and look at the scientific verdict. It's time to separate the geology from the geometry.
And this really gets to the heart of it. What some people see as perfect symmetry and straight lines, geologists explain as totally natural rock formations. And things that look like buried structures, well, science explains that as just the result of incredible pressure from all that ice moving over millions of years. The brain loves to see intentional design, but nature can create some surprisingly straight lines and sharp angles all on its own.
And then there's the timeline. And honestly, this is the biggest hurdle for the whole lost civilization idea. Look at the numbers. Antarctica starts to freeze over about 15 million years ago. By 3 million years ago, it's pretty much totally covered in ice. But the first modern humans, we don't show up until around 200,000 years ago. And our first major civilizations, only 6,000 years ago. The gap is just gigantic.
Plus, think about the reality of what it would be like to live under all that ice. You're talking about crushing pressure, extreme cold that never ever lets up, and of course, zero sunlight, no air, no food. It's just about the most impossible place to survive you can imagine.
So here's the bottom line, and this is the crucial point. For all the theories and all the speculation, there are no ruins, no tools, no confirmed artifacts have ever been found. There's just nothing, no hard evidence. So, if there's no real evidence, why are we so obsessed with this idea? Why does it stick around? Well, to figure that out, we have to stop looking under the ice and start looking inside our own heads. Let's talk about the mind's hidden map and why we want to believe.
There's this really cool psychological thing called pareidolia. You've definitely experienced it. It's just the tendency for our brains to see patterns in random stuff. Like seeing a face in the clouds or the man in the moon. Well, it's the same thing that makes some people see structures in cities and random rock formations on a radar scan.
And this really says it all, doesn't it? The human mind does not like blank spaces. Antarctica is a huge blank space on our map of the world, and when something is hidden like that, we just have to imagine what could be there. We can't help but project stories onto those empty spaces.
So, where do we go from here? Is this whole thing just a wild goose chase? Maybe, but maybe not. Let's talk about why we keep searching and the real value of the unknown.
You know, maybe the real mystery here isn't what's under the ice, but why we are so drawn to these hidden worlds in the first place. Antarctica's enduring mystery, it isn't really about a lost city. It's like a mirror. It shows us how fascinated we are with the unknown, how much we want to believe there are still huge secrets out there.
And that search for lost worlds, it's just so human, isn't it? It reflects this deep desire we all have to believe there's more out there to discover, more history, more secrets, more truth. It's the hope that the world is still full of wonder.
So, in the end, there might not be a city under the ice, but the idea of it. That keeps our curiosity firing on all cylinders. It reminds us there are still massive unknowns right here on our own planet. And it leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. As we finish mapping every corner of the Earth, what will we search for next?
Thanks for watching. Reality X Decoded isn't official teaching. We simply explore and aim to stay as accurate as possible. If anything seems off or you have questions, comment below and let us know what to decode next. Don't forget to subscribe.